Is it?
It's a prop.
You should have brought the Mike and Dooley mugs.
Hey, so we're actually live right now. I don't know when the thing quit going.
That's good.
We are a finely tuned operation.
You better think back of all the things you just said.
I love everyone in every way. All right, here we go. Mike and Dooley in the morning. We are like, I love Asheville, North Carolina. Shout out to you.
And all the people.
And Old Spice. So we are live here with Elevation Worship in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina. And so in a second, we're going to let y'all introduce yourselves and give us a little background on you.
Great.
And like why you're a Steelers fan.
All day.
And,
I know that story.
But side note, so Highlands people that are watching, we've already got a hey Mike and Dooley, how we doing? Side note, we've been telling them about Highlands, and we've already got like vacations lined up. Like they're on their way to come hang out
for
with
the next 3 summers.
You come?
Yeah.
Hey, here we go. We're gonna start selling
I think
property.
they said something about Elevation Worship doing a concert at your church in Highlands. Is that what I heard?
There's talk of it.
Yeah,
We're getting paid in spa treatments.
Hey, Richard Delaney.
Sold.
Hey,
Clem Patton, if you're watching, write a check.
Of the Old Edwards.
if you're watching, Mr.
Actually,
President.
And Art Williams, the
Thank you in
owner of
advance.
Old Edwards, is actually a big Christian. He does a lot. For
Absolutely.
Yeah, he
Absolutely.
really does. And he does a lot for the town. But
So,
you guys
Old
are
Edwards,
awesome.
we got some spa treatments lined up, and also for me, just throwing it out there. While
Dooley's
we're
never had a
talking.
massage.
Oh.
Yeah, I've had a massage. I've just never had like the whole spa. My wife and I did a couples massage one time. I don't know why we're talking about this with y'all, but they separated us.
It's
when you think
counseling.
couples
It's
massage,
counseling.
you think
Separate
like,
rooms?
yeah, I didn't
Well,
even
that's not a
see her,
couples massage.
and I got beat to death. Okay, and she
Hey,
came out
This
floating.
isn't in Ring of Darkness for the
Yeah,
Old Edwards.
yeah. I mean, dropping like the hook and elbow, kind of stuff.
That was your wife.
And Jamie came out like hair flowing, like had like a wind machine, like walked out. Wasn't that amazing? And I got the snot kicked out of me for an hour. It was terrible.
So you're scared to get a massage.
I'm frightened.
Listen,
One
it wasn't at
I'm
the Old
kind of a
Edwards.
sissy. Let's
Okay.
be real, okay? I'm kind of sensitive. Don't let this chubby exterior fool you. I'm kind of sensitive. And I don't know how we got here. Like I said, we're live with Elevation Worship. This is kind of what happens. You get sucked into the chaos, and it goes from there. So, all right, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to let you go first and introduce yourself. And just tell us a little bit about you. If you want to tell us family, if you have kids, any of that kind of stuff. And then how long you've been with Elevation Worship and all that. Will that work? Just kind of go that way.
Great.
That's perfect.
Do I?
You jump
Do I
jump
get to
in.
go?
How long you been at Elevation Worship as well?
Okay,
All right,
That
do
one
it.
half.
Yeah. This camera.
The
Yeah,
little one.
that one right there.
Awesome.
Yeah, you just look wherever you want.
Well,
Looking
this little guy.
The little one.
I am Jane
That's the
Williams,
black one.
and I've been a part of the team. Actually, came in as an intern under Chris, September of 2010. Had been to the been a part of the church for about a year and a half before that, and originally from Steamboat, Colorado. We were just talking about that as well.
Nice.
Grew up skiing and just loving life over there. Went to school in Santa Barbara, Westmont College, where I met my husband, who's from Texas.
What
So
part of
kind
Texas?
All,
Side note.
San Antonio,
Okay.
right outside
okay.
of San Antonio.
I lived in Texas
In
for a while.
Bernie. Nice.
Not there, but okay. Keep going. Sorry.
That's a great story.
Carry on.
That's a great story.
Great story. You're welcome.
Okay.
Ah, here we go.
So yeah, he played professional soccer for a little bit, and so that's what originally brought us to Charlotte. And I just thought we were going to be here for a season and leave, but obviously God had other plans and wanted us to jump in and become involved with the church. So it's I have 2 little boys, Wyatt and Nolan,
Nice.
6 and 4,
Nice.
and just been a worship leader. Was hired on in 2011. Now kind of overseeing some of our other like worship leaders and development and pastoral care, and
Very cool.
it's awesome. So it's a dream.
Jane has the coolest background, the coolest history.
Oh.
Steamboat.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
Husband plays professional soccer.
Who wants to go next?
Yeah. So my name's Dave, and
I grew up in a town with one stoplight, and
Steamboat was there too.
it wasn't
That's
Steamboat.
true.
That's true. You should have sat there
That's
and
fine.
went first. And
This is
then,
the lowlands of South Carolina. Very different.
yeah, that's. Hey, by the way, if you're watching live, share it live. Because why do it?
because sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. So share it live.
Share it
and
live.
then
And if you're from Steamboat Springs, if you'd like to throw out is there any spas in Steamboat?
There are.
Is
Yeah,
there
there
a
are.
Steamboat in Steamboat?
There's the
Outdoor ones,
Grand. There's a whole bunch of hot springs that we actually were in a couple days ago.
Shout out if you know her and want to hook a
Strawberry
brother
hot
up with some
springs.
strawberry hot springs.
Strawberry Hot Springs is the place to be.
Go
Hey.
on.
After dark,
So-
you have to be a little careful, if you know what I mean.
Hey! All right.
In a long time.
So,
Yeah,
well, I got my
sure,
name.
sure, all right.
It's pretty awesome.
This is a confession. It's not a confessional.
It's not a confessional.
You know, I love when you interview ministry people and you still get their sketchiness everywhere. I love it. All right, so go ahead. Well, tell us a little bit about you after we got the Steamboat
Yeah,
Springs and
you
husband's a
got
professional
a
soccer
lot
player.
Prepare
And,
to be bored.
yeah, her
That's
children are
not true.
dunking a basketball at the age of 6. And all that kind of stuff.
I grew up a lover of Michael Jordan, playing basketball in the back of my door in my room. That's about how I spent my
That's about the only
childhood.
place we could dunk. Were you really a Michael Jordan fan?
Yeah, I really was.
Well,
like
we are
that.
huge Michael Jordan. Our daughter's name is Jordan. That's how big of a Michael Jordan fan we were.
Really?
Although my wife says we named him after an actress in a movie, but it was Michael Jordan.
Wow.
I let her think that we named it after
Sure.
an
I
actress.
have the Jordan trilogy
He was-
DVDs, and I've made my boys watch them from they're this old.
Dude, I love
Good.
that.
Oh yeah, I've
Oh, look,
completely.
I got my Jordans on.
I've completely.
I love that.
See, we're
You
friends.
got your Jordans on?
Is he got them on? Okay, sorry, we're
We're
friends.
friends.
We're
We're
friends.
friends.
Super
We
friends.
digress. But I thought a minute ago this said Airwalks, and I thought Jane was wearing some
Oh.
Airwalks. Y'all remember Airwalks?
Yeah,
Back in the
yeah.
day?
Throwback in the
And I
day.
was
I need to
like,
get
I
some of
have
those.
so much respect. They're coming back. Jane stays ahead of the curve. on the
Fashion
trend
trend.
side, and I was like, Airwalks are
Fashionista.
back.
I want some
And
LA
then-
Gears.
They're just
LA
air.
Gears.
LA
they're
Gears.
Air Max.
Or LA Gears. You know what I'm talking about? LA Gears.
Oh,
Before the lights.
Yeah, before the lights.
Oh.
Those were shoes. Just throwing it out
What
there.
about Reebok pumps?
I had a pair of pumps.
Those never worked for me. I still couldn't dunk. I mean, I had one of those shoes like D Brown
pump
did in the dunk
actually
contest.
worked.
D
You
Brown.
said come on,
Yeah.
Yes.
I did that too. Didn't work.
Yeah.
It worked on my Nerf hoop though in the back of my
Yeah.
door.
I missed the
Nerf.
net and just went under the
I-
rim, and it was bad. But then again, I'm 5'9". As a grown person, I was
6'3",
not even that.
No, I'm 6'2". What you
You
saying?
can't dunk.
Are you saying I'm a little older? I used to be able to dunk a little.
He was taller too. He's got older. He
Let's
hunches
move on.
down
Let's
more.
get back to you making fun of you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so keep going. I'm so sorry.
I mean, yeah. I used
You
to
brought
dunk
you
all
brought
the
up
time.
Jordans
I
and
just
we
threw it
went
all
crazy.
backward.
No, so I've been here in Charlotte with my wife for 10 years. Came up, moved up for church. So Elevation as a church has been just celebrated 11 years of ministry, starting our 12th year. And yeah, we've been up for 10 and a half years of those, and what a crazy ride ministry.
I guess you would never
all
thought
over
it
the
would have
place.
got to where it was now.
No, it's been incredible. It really has. But yeah, we're raising kids now. 7-year-old boy, 5-year-old girl. She's full out princess, full out drama.
I told you earlier that's not gonna. That's not
It's
gonna
not-
get any
it's only-
better.
only gets
It's only
worse.
gonna get worse.
Mike has boosted things well. It's helped the whole parenting a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
worried too. Don't feel bad.
Yeah.
He
I got a
discouraged me.
3-year-old little girl. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
No, I guess that's it. What else?
But now, are you one of the? Are you the surviving? Not surviving, but
God, are the surviving
all right. Let me try that.
like flies?
All right. Cut.
Oh my goodness!
Take
Take
two.
two.
Hold on.
Yeah. Sorry,
All
we're
right, can you
still
go
alive.
back?
Keep going.
What I had meant to say was,
Oh, gosh.
you're one of the original members.
Yes. So
Surviving. You know, look at I could have went either way.
Wade Joy is our worship pastor, and myself, and then Mac Brock. We all came on at the same time.
Originally.
Originally, yeah, about a year into the church, and Pastor Stephen sat us down, cast vision. I would love for our church to start writing songs right away. Whether they're good or not, we can talk about that later. But let's get songwriting into our culture, and let's build a strong worship culture, as a church. And so, yeah, we we've been doing that for the last decade together, and God's brought other amazing team members along the way. But Wade's still serving, as our worship pastor. He's kind of helping lead the charge and,
Right.
and everything. And so, yeah.
When they envisioned where it could go to, it's got to be far beyond. You're far beyond where they
sure.
thought it could go, right?
Yeah, I
Something.
mean, yeah, maybe wildest imagination, but I mean, we still feel like I'm kind of letting a secret out, but like we don't belong here in some ways. Like, how did we get here? We're
Yeah.
trying to figure this thing
I
out.
know the feeling.
We feel the same way. Okay.
We don't feel that way at all. It's clear that we should be here.
We expected.
No,
Yeah.
God's given us influence, I think, and it's been we've just tried to steward it well season over season. So like,
Awesome.
I think our main focus when it comes to writing songs and giving them to our church, our main focus will always be, let's write songs for what's happening in our church.
Yeah.
And I think we want to, we want to be people who know what's happening with the people in our church. And so we do want those songs to feel like, hey, end of the day, year over year, we want to be in touch with our community, our ministry, what's going on in our church, and let's write for that. And, so far God's always blessed that, as opposed to coming to a point, okay, well now we have a certain level of influence outside of our church, or a certain level of platform beyond our church walls, and shifting our focus to begin writing for others.
Yeah.
And we don't we feel like that's not what we're called to do.
Right.
And so we're just local church people. We really are. Like we're dealing, LJ and I just had lunch, and we're dealing with local church, like practical things, and we're talking through like team dynamics. And Jane, as she said, she's part of our pastoral care, like she's helping lead other work. So I mean, week to week, we're focused so much on just helping build teams within the church and
Normal church stuff.
Normal church stuff.
So is it weird though
Yes.
that like you deal with normal church issues, but then you play in 20-seat arena, 20,000 seat, 20-seat arena?
That'd be awesome.
That's more like our show.
Let's bring it on down a notch. How you doing? Yeah.
Hey, sometimes 20-seat arenas are doing 20,000 seat arenas. I mean, is that weird? Quit making fun of me.
We're saying, yeah, I mean,
Sorry, you guys are mean.
we're still adjusting. It's I mean, we'll do a youth conference this Friday in Florida that'll have several thousand students. That's Friday night, and I'll show back up Saturday morning and walk right into rehearsal at 12 o'clock because we have a Saturday service.
Right.
And I'll walk into a rehearsal Saturday for church that night, just here. So that's very a normal rhythm for us. It's
Right.
like we'll be we're doing both, and we love both. And it's, I mean, anytime we go out and we see the impact that the songs that have come from here are having outside of our church, I mean, it's so special, and I have yet to not be surprised by it
Right.
in a good way.
Yeah.
It must be crazy.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think when you're just focusing on doing the right thing and what you're doing within your church, and just because it blows, I mean, that's just an ancillary benefit to it.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so
Well,
special.
And when you listen to other musicians and they start talking about authentic music, like music that comes from their heart, it kind of sounds like what y'all are doing with worship. It's not, this is where you're at right now. And probably why it God blessing it, obviously, but in that blessing is there's this authentic worship coming from where you're at in this space, in this moment, in your church. I think there's something, a lot of musicians I'm sure struggle with kind of the authentic. And it sounds like from you guys, because it's coming right from your heart, right where you're at in that moment, there's like a realness to it. And that's cool.
Yeah.
Is
Hope
it, so is it weird though to go back and forth between the concerts and then coming back to the church, and then is that kind of a
I don't know
weird
if I don't know if
dynamic?
I've experienced. I mean, y'all may have a different. I don't think I've experienced anything that's weird. Our church, we're full tilt every weekend. We're kicking doors down
I've seen.
so. It's not like
It's
there's
not the
some,
normal slow paced church you're coming back.
It's
to.
not like we're
I've
going
seen
from
by watching it.
Let's sing 14 stanzas of Just As I Am. All right, go. No, it's
We
a
actually
little different.
just sang just as I am this week.
Never mind. Sing all your 14 stanzas. Let me sit in the corner and shut up. Y'all talk. Keep going. Nah, my bad.
Can't keep us in a box. You can't figure it. Who knows what we're gonna
He
do.
did his research. See, when
Did he?
we
That's
do
fresh, man.
we do crack research on our
I
show.
know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we haven't made it this far.
Yeah, you're up.
My turn.
Your turn.
I am the newest person.
You are.
on the team,
What's your
I would
name,
say.
first of all?
LJ Mitchell.
L.J. Mitchell. Okay.
So let me just go ahead and get this out there. My name is Lloyd George Mitchell Jr.
Lloyd George.
George Mitchell Jr.
So if you're trying
Wait.
to figure out where the LJ comes
Like
from,
Jorge.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's more like Jorge, right? George is spelled with a G.
Well,
No,
in Canada,
it's
it's spelled
George.
with a
Oh,
G.
is it?
He's
Okay.
Canadian.
He's
There you
Canadian.
go.
He's
I was-
Canadian.
Hey,
Okay.
you gave away my
That's
second
awesome.
secret.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, my
I
bad.
didn't say that.
I'm Canadian,
He's
so that's
Canadian.
about the most Canadian name you can have.
No, I got you.
That's a Canadian name.
Yeah, very. Do you don't think so? British?
Can I be honest with you? You're
Justin
the first
Bieber's a
Canadian I've
Canadian
ever
name.
met.
I'm the first Canadian.
You're the first Canadian I've ever met.
Shaking hands.
It's so nice to meet you.
Is she the first
Nice to
lumberjack
meet
you've
you.
ever met?
Are you the first? Yeah.
He's the first.
Are you really a lumberjack?
I am.
He looks like one, doesn't he?
From where though?
Huh?
From where?
From lumberjack.
No, he's
No,
not.
I'm kidding. I'm a pastor, but it's all different. Kind of like a midget lumberjack. Yeah, that's me.
Let me see. What else?
Lumberjack Highway.
Wait, how long?
Facebook
When did you
host
join the band?
is-
When did I
is
join?
More special to me.
I-
Pastor slash.
Wait till Julie gets
I'm
something.
branched out in life.
Hey, can I
I'm a
go now?
lumberjack
Can I
with cool
ask
voice.
one question?
Sorry, we're having a little side conversation. My bad.
Well, there's
I-
also a camera.
You have
I
the
would
floor.
say-
So when did you join the band?
I would
Things
say-
go way
no,
longer than
still-
I expected.
It's weird because I joined probably 2 years around this time.
Okay.
So this is surreal still in a way. It's weird. Like it was 2 years ago going to a Starbucks and meeting Chris Brown for the first time, and let me just
That's
say
crazy.
it was. I had goosebumps the first time.
Is that like
Yeah, it was like-
today meeting Mike and Dooley?
It was like
something similar.
yeah, it's
there,
there,
man.
man.
It's
Just a
something
little bit more.
Oh, yeah, what can I say?
You
We
haven't
call
yet
us the
alone.
goosebumps.
That-
Well, hold on. Wait, no, in my stocking, this is legit, because I'll be honest,
In
I
your
can stalk
stocking?
y'all. Well, I had to find out information about them.
What does that mean in my stocking?
Stalking.
Oh, stalking.
Not my
Okay.
stocking.
Stocking.
My stocking.
Instead of stocking ahead of
I
the
know.
gift.
I was like, what?
That's a little personal. We're
Okay.
not going there.
You told me that in
But
confidence.
so
one day.
there was a cool video about you. You and Pastor Stephen. You're up on stage,
Mhm.
and he's talking about you. And we actually talked about it this morning about you rehearsing to elevation
love
worship
this story.
songs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was. If you want to
So
talk a
you're
little bit
2
about
years
that.
in Charlotte, but
I'm 2 years in
But you were
Charlotte.
prepped.
My journey began in the Middle East,
Okay.
Wow.
in Dubai, where I was living, doing music at the time.
Wow.
And I was in a not Christian country,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I very much needed Christianity in my life.
Mhm.
So I would actually take my computer and bump the VPN to Tennessee so I could get into our American channels per se.
Wow.
Okay.
And I remember I'm a big T.D. Jakes fan,
Okay.
number one, and I'm a big Israel Houghton fan.
Okay.
So the story's going somewhere.
Oh, you're good.
So you know how you look up on YouTube and you see this footage?
Yeah.
recommended.
Recommended
So,
stuff to watch.
I watched this T. Jakes sermon, and then I saw this orange thing, this orange background in this church, and I was like, this is very interesting, okay, but I didn't click on it right away. Then I would go watch some Israel footage, and then I would see that Israel was at this orange church. So I was like, this is interesting. So I clicked on the orange church finally, and I watched Code Orange, the very first
Okay.
Code Orange that they did, and Bishop
Yeah.
Jakes spoke at our church. And then quickly after that, I saw this footage of Easter, which would have been when we did it at Time Warner,
2011 or
2011. Yeah,
12 or something.
and it was very interesting because I grew up traditional Baptist, so
Okay.
and then I went Pentecostal, and then so I watched this church, and I was like, this is ridiculous what they're doing, and
Yeah.
In a good way.
it was awesome. It was different to me though. Like everybody had.
Sure.
Just checking.
Everybody had dyed hair and skinny jeans, and everybody it was interesting to say the least. And I remember watching the sermon, and it was in a difficult season of life. And I remember watching the sermon, and it was like Pastor Stephen was preaching, and he said these words: "I don't care what you've done, I don't care where you've been. God still wants you, and He still has work for you to do."
Yeah.
And from that moment, it was like that was the journey of coming to Elevation. So I left the Middle East, went home to be with my wife.
Nice.
That was a good
And,
idea.
yeah, went home to be with my wife. And we were living in Calgary at the time.
We're the Steelers now.
No,
Oh, sorry. Okay.
we said we made a truce. with the
I did.
Steelers.
That one slipped. Go ahead. That wasn't a negative though.
And we tried to find a church out in Calgary, and it just wasn't cutting what I had been experiencing. So I'd be online watching it there.
Yeah.
So we just made the decision and said we're going to be a part of. They had just kind of kicked off online church.
Yeah.
I said we're going to be part of that. So we would get up every morning, and that would be church. We'd watch that. We tithe there, and I wasn't playing anywhere at the time, so I would watch the worship experiences, and that's how I would play in church. I would play along
That's
At
awesome.
home, from home, watching
from home.
it.
It's kind of weird, but
Oh, that's cool.
I would play along, and then Pastor Stephen would preach, and I would, play along.
Yeah.
And then I realized that he was very fiery. It's like he preached with some gusto.
You like that?
I love it. And follow along and play. So I learned all the songs there. And then one day they put up auditions. Might have even been Jane or Chris being like, "Hey, I want you to audition for the worship team." I sent in the audition from Calgary, and it just wasn't the right timing, but sent in the audition. They sent me an email back, said, "Hey, we want you to be a part of the team." But I was living in Calgary at the time.
That's a commute.
And it's a 3-day commute.
That's gonna be hard to get back and forth for the show.
So we waited it out, and we just kind of shelved it, and then we went back to Toronto. As soon as we went back to Toronto, we have a location in Toronto. Shout out to GTA if they're watching.
Of course
And,
they are.
Glad to see you.
They're watching,
Yeah.
Yeah, one is.
Yeah.
And went there and served there faithfully. Was just a part of the team. Just happy to be at church, because the same experience that we have in Charlotte, a lot of ways is the same in Toronto. The same care, the same VIP treatment, the same way you feel like you're a part of the community. So it was just great to be in church,
Yeah.
a normal church. No drama. Just go to church, hear a good word,
Yep.
be able to serve.
We're not perfect. I don't know about no drama.
I was gonna say, you have no drama.
Man, this sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's utopia. No, but there is. I know what you're saying. But there's like a genuine.
There's levels of drama.
Yeah, no,
I'll
I
take our drama
Levels.
any
Yeah.
day compared to some of the drama.
Yeah.
that-
How many
Levels of
members are
drama.
there at Elevation Church?
How many what?
Members.
Right about 27,000 right now.
Yeah. So there's probably
Yeah,
there's
it's the same as my
there's
church.
probably a little.
Yeah.
Hey,
That's
look,
like the church Dooley
no,
preaches at.
no,
Mhm.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say no drama would be.
No drama that I experienced
No, I
at the
see what you're
time.
saying.
Carry on, carry on.
At the time? Can I say at the time? I didn't experience no drama
Sure.
at the
What does
time.
that mean? Does that mean there's drama now? What are you trying to say? You can say it.
Let's go over this point. And
Oprah.
It's okay. It's all right. Just let it out. You'll feel better afterwards.
no drama.
Okay,
There you
yeah.
go.
Stick with that.
And so one of our friends was a former worship leader here. He was up because we were launching the new permanent site, and we were playing a hymn. And I guess the story goes that he came back home and was just like, "Hey, you gotta check this guy out. I think he's he could be a part of our team." So then, remember that audition that I said that
Yeah.
I sent in a year after that, I got a call around this time to come on down and
Come
do
to
the
Charlotte.
audition, come to Charlotte. And it was mind still blown.
Yeah.
It's only been 2 years.
We were looking for a guy that fit this bill. Everything about it. Commitment, loyalty, heart, spirit, do anything behind the scenes, and then he has all the skill. I mean, he can play.
The complete.
So after he and I left Starbucks after our first meeting, then we went to church, and I was like just singing through, I don't know, 30, 40 random songs, and I would just start in any key and sing another one, and he would immediately start playing
You
it.
say that's so nice.
Yeah.
He would immediately start
That was
playing
nice.
it. I was like,
That was not the
God.
memory that I had.
Yeah. Hey, go with his
That's
memory.
it.
Go with his memory. Don't go with your memory.
It went like
There
this.
was one out
Stick with
of
his.
35 that you
We
didn't know.
went to Starbucks and came into Blakeney, and Chris pulled up a stool and sat by the piano, and there was a little stage and a little red light kind of from a camera,
Mhm.
oblivious to it. And Chris was just calling out stuff, calling out hymns and all this stuff. Just be like, and then he'd look at his phone and then he'd be like, "Okay, can you play this? Play that? Okay, can you play this one? This is really weird, Chris." Little did I know they had everybody was watching the thing.
Oh, they were.
Yes.
We had Wade watching in from another
That's
link.
funny.
It was like a Truman Show moment.
You thought it was just you two?
I thought it was just me and him having a moment, you know?
Lights
is
down,
so
like
nice.
he just rolled up
Chris
in
is
there
being
casually.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But it
good,
worked
though.
out.
It was great.
It
It worked
awesome.
out. So you've been 2 years. You've been 11,
Yeah.
and you've been a little short. 10,
Yes, 7.
7. Now, are
Seven.
there's multiple singers in the band? How many singers are there that can sing in any?
So to draw the distinction between maybe Elevation Worship and then Elevation Church worship leaders, I would say there's what five or so of us that travel right now
Okay.
with Elevation Worship,
Okay.
and then there's 17 Elevation Church campuses. So every one of those campuses has a full team, has a worship leader, has vocalists that are with them every single week.
Now, do y'all oversee those singers at those churches, or is that how it works? The hierarchy
Yeah.
works.
I mean, they all kind of each campus has a campus pastor too.
Okay.
So those worship leaders are being pastored by that campus pastor, but then that's also a big thing that Jane kind of helps centrally oversee from a worship standpoint, is helping pastor our worship.
So do y'all have to
pastors.
travel besides the concerts? Do you travel a lot? Well, you must, because you just got back from Melbourne, and well, you were on vacation at Steamboat. That doesn't count.
It's like our fifth vacation in 2018.
Steamboat Springs.
Whoops.
Strawberry bath. But
Strawberry bath.
do you have,
Wow, this is going left.
do you both? Do you travel too?
I am privileged with the awesome job of being Pastor Stephen's.
He's a right-hand guy.
Right-hand
Right.
You're his guy. So let me ask you this about old Pastor Stephen, because I was watching. Dude's got guns. Let's be real. He's ripped. Do you ever get up on stage and feel a little bit intimidated, like you have to up the buff game a little bit to be with Pat? I mean,
Clearly, I've been working on
Yeah.
it
I'm telling
for
you,
a long time.
You got the shirt rolled up a little bit where you can see the pipes a little bit. But I mean, do you feel a little intimidation to be to get up the buff game?
I just posted it the other day.
Just don't.
I was looking, that's just back kind of and said, I gotta get back. in
Oh,
the
you
gym,
did.
man."
He posted a picture about 6 years ago of himself looking
I was
all
just like- I was
jacked.
like, man,
Of him? You looking
Yeah.
jacked? Oh.
I was like,
Oh, and then you saw him and you felt.
You got
I need to get back
I
in
got
it.
it. It's very inspiring, to say the least.
How often does he work? Is there a gym at the church? Come on,
There
guys.
is.
There is a gym at the church.
Nice.
He works out a lot, doesn't he? Like Dooley. I
My
mean,
members say
I
that
see-
when I
see
preach,
the
they
resemblance.
say, Pastor Dooley. He's
They
ripped.
get-
No,
They're
they
so
say clearly
Yeah.
they don't have a workout facility at
Yeah,
his church.
we got a Mountain Dew cooler. We're
They-
good, man. One
Hey,
Mountain Dew at a
Mountain
time.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah.
Official drink.
See, you're a Mountain Dew. You walked in with a Mountain Dew.
Official drink of
Mountain Dew and Jordans. We're tight.
ministry.
Ministry. It gets me
Diet.
through a day. Coffee and Mountain Dew.
Too much caffeine. Y'all drink soda?
Well
Outside of-
caffeinated.
Not soda,
No, soda.
coffee.
You let your kids drink soda?
Nope.
I don't let my kids drink soda. That's kind of hypocritical, I realize.
That is bad.
I'm not. Why are we talking about?
I don't know.
this?
I was just thinking. All right, so go ahead.
Well, so the tour, Outcry tour, is coming. I guess in the next 2 weeks,
Oh, God.
3 weeks. Is that
Start
right?
in April.
Yeah.
April.
April.
Don't say
Okay,
it's
we're
2
not
weeks,
quite.
man.
I was like,
Sorry, did you panic?
Hey, by the way, you got to be in
Sorry.
San Francisco this week.
So, but it looks like this tour is like a 1 month, no stopping, all out cross country tour. She panicked over there when I said more. Oh, yeah. But I mean, this is. Are you guys ready? I mean, how do you get ready for a tour like this?
I'm gonna be honest with you. We're gonna start thinking about tour after we get through this recording. We're recording our next album
Live,
in a week and a
I
half.
saw
live.
that.
But it's live.
Yeah.
After that, I'm gonna think a little bit more about tour. No, we have a church conference coming up the week after recording.
That little holiday song.
Week at a time. Week at a time.
That's true.
No, we're stoked about tour. It is most of April. It's starting in California, working its way over here. It'll be fun. It's going to be the first time we've been out with Bethel, so we've been able to be out on previous tours with the Hillsong Crew and Jesus Culture and Lauren Daigle. You said y'all are with her in a couple weeks or something like
In the
that.
summer.
Hopefully
In the summer.
Well, it depends on how this goes. So maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
I'm just kidding.
So okay, so you were Jesus Culture.
We were.
What is
yeah.
She was the head of Jesus Culture. You know what I'm talking about?
Kim?
Kim. Her voice is nuts.
Yeah.
In fact,
Otherworldly.
my last church, I was playing some Jesus Culture in my office, and a lady walked by my office and then came in and was like, "Who in the world is that?" I mean, it was that kind of like she's got a
Is that
powerful,
voice?
She's amazing.
powerful voice.
Unreal.
It's kind of crazy.
So who's all going to be on this tour with you guys?
So Bethel will be there. Mosaic will be there, and they're coming from Erwin McManus's church in LA.
Okay.
So they're the worship team from there, and then Vertical Church Band is
Out of
on.
Chicago, right?
Yep, out of Chicago.
Very cool. Very cool.
How did that come about? Were they just wanting to put the concert tour together, kind of thing? With
Yeah, so Outcry's
Church
been
bands?
going, I don't know, maybe 3 years now. And the vision is like honestly to support local churches.
Mhm.
So every team they've had I guess 2 tours a year for the last 3 years or so, and every team they've had is a worship like artist or worship group
Oh, okay.
from
Sure.
a local church.
Right.
So it's a big champion of just the local church. So much of what we do city to city. Last time we were on, and this time April of last year, every city we stop at, there was a gathering before the night of local church leaders.
Oh,
That's awesome.
So we could invest in them, and so the leaders of Outcry could invest in them. So it's just a big champion. Like hey, God's doing something amazing in your community. Let's highlight that, as opposed to, here's another tour.
Here we are. Come see us.
Yeah, come see us and have a great time, and
Right.
we don't leave a mark necessarily.
Sounds
for
like you
that
make it
city.
more about them than about you.
that is a vision of Outcry, and they do an amazing job. So we've loved being a part, because obviously we love being a part of our church, and that's such our heart. So it's been like such a good fit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's incredible because you all lead worship on Sundays. And I'm sure you all would say there's a difference in like going to a show and leading worship.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys lead worship every show you have, it's leading worship.
Right.
I mean, does that, how different is that? Does that make sense at all? I mean, I know it's different from y'all, but how is it to get up for, I know as a pastor, there are Sundays that I'm not mentally there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That like I've got my own struggles, I've got my own stuff I'm going through,
Most Sundays.
and most Sundays I am not there. No, but I mean, you guys have your own individual lives. You've got families, you've got everything that everybody else has, and then you've got to get up on stage and you've got to lead people kind of to the altar that day and kind of let people see Christ in that moment. That can't always be easy. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, what's that
Sure.
like? For y'all, that's a terrible question, I realize. But,
No, I love
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
But I'm not even sure what the question was. It kind of meandered out. And you said a lot of.
I'm a
that makes
pastor.
sense. Usually when you
I'm a
have,
pastor. We're not going to say 4 words when we could say 47.
but listen,
It's
usually
just
when
how
you
it
ask a
works.
question and say, "Did that make sense?" It probably didn't.
Probably not.
And you had like
probably not.
3. Did that make sense? But go ahead. Go ahead. You answer the question. Do you remember the question?
I do. I
Okay,
do.
good.
She got it early on.
She's gonna answer.
Look at that, you.
I like the show, by the way.
That's good. We're coming back next week too. But go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Answer.
Good.
We're family from now on. You realize it, yeah.
That's right.
Seriously.
Elevation Interview Band. That's us. Keep going.
I think still trying to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's different seasons. I think there's like a certain level. I think what I've been learning lately is that there's a certain level of like this self-awareness, knowing if you're coming into a Saturday. Some of our locations have like Saturday nights and then Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, and then throughout like the week. So it's a lot more sometimes than just Sunday.
Yeah.
But I think having the self-awareness to know when you're not in like the place, like just mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever, that you just giving yourself like prep time, I guess, to prepare, because you can always get there by the grace of God. You can always get to that spot where you're able to lead, and but knowing how to lead yourself before leading other people, I think it's knowing, I guess, the end goal. Sometimes like the strategies to get there, the steps to get there. Sometimes it takes 20 steps. Sometimes it takes 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think just knowing and being able to read yourself in those situations, and always knowing where to turn, and just like a lot of times just like not overthinking it, keeping things simple.
Yeah.
It isn't about you in any specific situation, but it is about your preparation and how you can like let go in that moment and be able to receive from God what you need to be able to give other people what they need. So I know it's
that was a lot
important
better
general
answer
stuff.
than the question. I'm gonna start from you.
got it.
That was a great answer
Got
to the
it.
question. Not so much.
We're going to stay over here and
No,
talk.
not so much.
To the chat.
She gets me. All right.
What? How hard is it though? Will y'all be? This one is breaking in. Will y'all be gone for a month? Do y'all go out to California? How is that? Do your families go? I mean, is that hard part of this?
No,
This-
families won't be going, but yeah, we'll be gone for most of April. As long as the tour is happening. So
We may have to come. There'll be an
you
April. There'll be
Bring the
April,
trail. We
right?
can interview all about. By the way, see how I asked my question? I didn't have to say. Did that make sense?
That makes sense.
It was just a flat out question.
pretty
He
good.
answered it. I'm just saying.
Mike Dooley show is going to take a brief hiatus.
No, but that part must be hard,
yeah,
especially because you have little kids.
that's I think the family dynamic right now. Family's not really traveling with us when we go out, and it's for sure difficult. We try to
Sure.
make the use of the best use of technology,
Yeah, that's
but it does not trade being able to see them in person.
Makes you appreciate it when you come home, though.
Definitely
Seeing
does.
the kids.
But I mean, we try to talk a lot with our kids about my wife and I do just talk about them, what they are a part of, like as far as what we're doing with ministry. Hey, Daddy's getting to go, minister, to other parts of the country. Isn't this great as opposed to Daddy's going on a trip and he'll just be gone for a month.
Yeah.
We try to
You have
bring
a
them
purpose.
into exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're
So
involved in your
hopefully-
ministry in that way. And so,
Yeah.
that's cool.
But I think it's neat that you guys, you do the music. You're from a local church, and it's just like you said, it's just kind of taken off, and that's just like a secondary benefit to all of this. So then all the people
It
you
is.
can reach through the music, and I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's one of those things like we talk about when you're not trying hard to make things happen. Sometimes God opens those doors and makes those things happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Similar to
That's
our
cool.
success with our show.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
doors
You think
open
Elevation
sometimes,
Worship,
and
you
you're
think
like,
Mike
why is that door?
Dooley. Yeah.
Why are you making? What did you say?
I love you. That's what I
Was
said.
he making fun of me?
No, not a bit. Not a bit.
Not
Not at all.
All right. So what about your new album? I know you're recording. Was it March 8th live?
Yep.
How, is that just
So
new songs or?
it's brand new songs. It'll release later this year. But yeah, we've been arranging and finishing writing for this album. We've been singing some of these songs in our church for close to a year, maybe even more. So our church is on a weird rhythm cycle because they'll hear the songs super early. By the time they actually get it,
Then they're released on the album.
yeah, they
They've been
download
there
it
for
or
a
they
year.
start streaming it. Then they're like, "Oh, I'm over this, way over this." No, but
sang that last year.
we're excited. The album is going to be called Hallelujah Here Below, and there's this. That's one of the songs on the album. The doxology hymn.
Yeah.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. So we were writing that song, and Leonard Cohen, the songwriter, wrote Hallelujah, the song Hallelujah, very famous song. He was talking about the songwriting process for him, and how he apparently wrote 80 plus verses for the song.
Oh,
Hallelujah.
wow.
Really?
And he was talking about that process for him and what it's like to dig, and why he just keeps revising, and he tries so hard to find the right fit for this line, and how this line will have to fit with that line perfectly, and then he revises it and starts all over. And he used this passage from Exodus where God's talking about how to bring the proper way to build an altar to him. And he says in Exodus 20, he talks about, you're supposed to build me an altar made of unhewn stones, which is basically saying, like, don't chisel away and make a perfect stone in order to build. You're going to have to go and bring this rock and then find another rock somewhere in the desert at the base of a mountain. And so you're basically bringing imperfect stones,
Right.
but finding the ones that will fit together. So he's talking about the songwriting process, but Pastor Stephen and I were writing that song, and he started thinking about 1 Peter, where it says, "You are living stones, being built into a spiritual house." So Peter's talking to us, and he's calling the people, you all are actually living stones, being built into a spiritual house, to bring a spiritual offering to God. And so he started making this connection. Oh, well, we're the living stones. In Exodus, in the Old Testament, it's talking about these imperfect stones. We're imperfect people.
Yeah.
What about this idea that God actually is pleased and is okay with imperfect people bringing Him their act of worship and bringing Him their offering? And so, that doxology, praise Him, all creatures here below. I think part of that, is found in this song, but I think the concept for the album basically is, man, God is fully able and does have 24/7 perfect worship happening around His throne, 24/7, all the time. This is happening. It's perfect, but somehow He still wants to meet with us.
Yeah.
When every single time His presence shows up, when a bunch of imperfect, broken people. Jane talking a minute ago about not feeling it, or you in the midst of where you were going with that.
Yep.
I knew where I was going. Thank you. See,
I'm totally
you
kidding.
found it hard to follow too, but go ahead.
Jane got
No,
me. It's
no, no.
okay. One of the thank you.
It's kind of a crazy thing, like to actually stop, take a step back and think, like, man, what a revelation that God would actually meet with us and possibly be even more pleased when we take a step in an imperfect place and when we don't feel it.
Yeah.
And when we're not always like, when sometimes we just feel like we're so far away, but we take a step in our brokenness and still offer Him our best. And so that's kind of the concept of how the album has been coming along in the writing process, and
That's awesome.
decided to record it and get it out there later.
Feel like I just went to church. That was pretty good. Just off the top of your head.
Yeah.
that was pretty good.
Well, actually, and it's kind of freaky, but it ties in. Like we were talking to our teenagers last night at church, and we're talking about how much God loves us right in the midst of our mess,
Yeah.
and He loves us so much He doesn't want to just leave us there.
Right.
You know, He's always trying to mold us and break us and make us more into who He wants us to be. We're actually that's wild.
Now, what do you think? Where do you think Elevation will be 10 years from now?
Ooh. Good question.
Thank you.
You got
Thank
silent.
you. Easy to understand. Easy to understand, right?
Just because you think in smaller, less complex thoughts than I do.
Your question was like 10 minutes long. The question.
Y'all feel free to chime in. I would love to see 10 years from now for us to. I think. I mean, my son would be 17, so I think since I have kids, like in terms of very much so now like generations. So I would love to see, us have different expressions of what's coming, Elevation Worship, what's coming from the worship expression of our church, for kids that are now in our kids ministry, or whatever, just being just entering maybe our student ministry. I think our biggest hope would first to be that kids growing up now would want to be a part of the ministry 10, 15 years from now. And so I think that's one of the, maybe one of the most challenging parts about us leading now, is that we know that we're setting standards and we're building culture for what
The next
will,
generation.
the next generation. And so,
but that's great, because a lot of the next generation, with a lot of the stuff that's out there these days, aren't being led. That was the same English you used.
Ain't being led.
I got myself. I made fun of myself.
You've been in the mountains for a while. I got you.
But they aren't being led down the right path. So to have positive influences, and that's what we were talking to you guys about. One of the things with our show was wanting to interview positive people doing positive things, because it's not out there enough. So you guys are setting that path for them to follow, to try to. And the world is.
And I don't want to dog
place.
Christian music of the past. But to me, it seems like today there's such a wide variety of really good musicians that are writing really good and deep lyrics. And when kids, we kind of talking about a second ago, when the two meet and they realize, oh my goodness, there's good music, and then there's something behind it. It's not just words that I hear on the radio that have nothing to do with my life. Like, there's, I don't know. I think it's amazing to watch kids kind of see those two things unite. People see those things unite, not just kids, but. That impresses me.
I think you mentioned a minute ago, and then just now saying like deep lyrics. I think people connect so much with just authentic lyrics.
Yep.
And so if people are always going to be writing whatever style, whatever genre, whatever, if they're writing from an authentic place, then that's going to translate.
Yeah.
And I think like that actually is one of the biggest things that I hear in our church. Our church is very multi-ethnic, very diverse. And I've asked people from different backgrounds in our church, like a handful of times, like, what is it that you find attractive, or why do you come? And one of the answers, I mean, I think one of the answers that keeps surfacing is there's just such an authenticity in. I grew up worshiping with a very different style, but I find an authenticity in what we're singing. That style doesn't really matter, because I feel like what we're singing is it feels raw, feels authentic. I can relate to it, so I'm setting aside any style preference because I'm able to see something.
Right.
else.
Well, and people are obviously reacting to that, because they feel that too.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, now, did I get this right? Are you guys going to play something? Is that a possibility?
Sure, we didn't.
I mean, no,
we didn't think about
is
it.
that true?
Come on.
No pressure. I mean, it's not.
Billy's gonna sing with you.
Yeah. Can I play a tambourine?
Billy thinks you should play a tambourine.
No, I have no musical ability. In fact, I'm going to sit here awkwardly as you
No,
all with talent have talent.
It
and
is
I
true.
have-
Dooley does not have any musical
I have no musical ability whatsoever. I sit really nicely, and Yeah,
That's
what
it.
I do.
So that's your
really nice.
talent.
It's my talent.
You talk well.
We consider-
Sometimes. English
No.
language you struggle with. I mean,
This snuck up. I'm glad you said that. We didn't talk about this at all.
Mm.
Jane, you want to sing something?
come on, Jane.
All right, Jane. We like
what
to
do
get
you
people
say,
out
just
of their
I am?
element. Yeah, I would like all 14
Yeah.
stanzas of
I-
Just As I Am, please.
I totally
You can
said
rock
yes.
that.
We'll sing something, and then we got to talk about the spa and.
We'll talk about the spa.
Yeah,
We'll make the spa happen.
They're coming to Old Edwards.
Just sing a song now.
Yeah, whatever you wanna do.
Okay.
It's your show.
Thanks for joining us on our show.
Yeah,
guys.
Thank you.
Hey, we're here for you. Pastor Stephen, if you'd like to add us to the elevation
Yeah,
team.
I think
Mike and Dooley interview, elevation interview. We'll think of the name. We'll
That's
work on the
right,
name. We
that's
got
right.
it. Keep going. All right, here we go.
we're available.
All
Are
right.
you gonna sing? Do you sing or do you just play keyboard?
He
All right, I want
he
to hear
sings
it.
in
LJ
the- in
does
the
all of it.
You
microphone.
need some water?
No,
Some?
I'm good.
Red leather, yellow leather, blue leather.
That's like the most unheard of thing.
In the
ever.
microphone,
gosh.
not just in air.
We don't.
Put it in the
he
microphone.
sings in the
In the
microphone.
microphone.
What? When did I
He sings in the MD mic that goes everywhere.
Did y'all just make fun of me?
I like this. I can interview y'all anytime. This is
Oh, you're making
fun.
fun of Kurt, okay. If you're making fun of him, that's cool. It's not me, it's making fun of
I can just provide some background music for a conversation.
Okay.
That would be no. please.
Okay, how about this song Come to the Altar. Are you hurting and broken within? Overwhelmed by the weight of your sin? Jesus is calling. Have you come to the end of yourself? Do you thirst for a drink from the well? Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Leave behind your regrets and mistakes. Come today, there's no reason to wait. Jesus is calling. Oh, bring your sorrows and trade them for joy. From the ashes, a new life is born. Jesus is calling. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood. Oh, what a Savior! Isn't He wonderful? Sing hallelujah! Christ is risen. Bow down before Him, for He is Lord of all. Sing hallelujah, Christ is risen. Oh, come to the altar. The Father's arms are open wide. Forgiveness was bought with the precious blood of Jesus Christ. Bear your cross as you wait for the crown. Tell the world of the treasure you found.
Man, I got goosebumps. That's weird. listening like that close.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
I've never felt like I had less talent in all of my life.
Well, that one's probably true. But
Wow.
But I was thinking, God, it must be so weird just to be able to open your mouth like that and just sing like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have, but we didn't want to.
Okay, so let's be real. Let's be real. So, did you ever sing to your spouses? And if not, why not?
Is that the question you came up
No,
with?
I'm not thinking that.
All day.
Yeah, all day, yeah.
You had like
What's that?
2
I don't
minutes,
know
and
how
that's
much
what
I sing to my husband, but I do like to sing.
Did you sing to your kids when they were
Sing your
babies?
boys, huh?
You sing
Probably
ole,
don't sing to
ole,
your
ole,
kids.
ole.
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that was
I'll
a song.
How old are
sing
they?
the song,
I have a
yeah.
daughter.
Wow.
She's going on 8 months old.
Oh, so are you singing to her now?
All day.
Sing. So we probably sang to our kids. No, I don't. I never. Did.
I don't sing a lot to my children. And my little girl's watching right now, and I'm sure not going to sing to her after that.
You want to say hi to Lainey? You
Hey,
want
Lainey
to
Jo.
sing
How you
her?
doing, baby?
Oh.
Hey!
Hey!
That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Uh,
Brownie points. We'll play that when you're 20. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything? I know we're probably.
We're running out of
y'all
time.
are busier than we are.
Yeah. Well, y'all, this has been fun. Thank you.
Oh, wait. I want to say 2 things or 3
This is
things,
what happens.
maybe 4.
Oh, wait.
Okay.
So this is like another 15 minutes. Number 1, thank you for watching, and if you're watching, share it
Share it.
live.
Sharing is scary.
If you watch it afterwards, share it, and everybody that shares it will be entered into a drawing. We'll have them sign something, and you guys can win that. We'll draw somebody's name. So,
Yeah.
but you got to share it.
And you have to say hashtag AKA # elevation worship.
Yeah. So you get. Yeah.
It's gotta happen.
That makes sense.
So we had a kid ask us what
No,
what
he
a
called.
sign was.
No, he called the bank
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get his balance.
Yeah. Hey, Drew.
And
How you doing, Bubba?
they said, enter your code and the £, and he didn't.
You
know
don't know
what
what
it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we make fun of him every episode. It's a hashtag.
So,
hashtag.
hashtag # elevation worship. All right, sorry, that was like point 2 of your 47.
Yeah.
Are you done? Yeah, you're done.
now.
All right, so
No, thank you for watching. We appreciate, and obviously we appreciate you guys letting us come in
It's
and
been fun.
Been good.
crack jokes and act
Okay.
like. Obviously, we don't know what we're doing, so thank you. And maybe that's what
Thanks
makes it
for
easier.
tuning in.
yeah, so here I was kind of nervous, but y'all are pretty cool people. I'm gonna give you some credit. I was a little bit intimidated. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you broke the ice. Talking
Yeah.
again, back to the spot.
Back to the
It's
spot.
back
It all goes back to the
It's
spot.
back to the
guys.
spot.
Okay, so make me a deal.
And-
Okay, if you come
and
to
the
Highlands,
Steelers
come to the
are
spa,
the
we'll take you to lunch. Deal?
Done.
Yeah.
Done?
Yeah,
Done?
yeah,
All right.
Yes.
All right, good stuff.
100%.
Because they're coming to Highlands to go to the spa.
Anything else y'all need to
Anything
add or
you
want
wanna
to
say anything?
promote or talk about?
Shout
or
outs to the 12
anything?
people that are watching. I'm kidding. Shout out.
Anything? Nothing? You know what?
No, what do we need, Steph?
Anything else,
Off
Steph?
camera.
Steph, you got anything? Come on.
Hey, no, just evidence is still
Evidence.
out there.
Yeah,
Evidence is
oh,
out there.
yes.
Yeah.
Evidence.
Evidence has been a fun new
Yeah.
project from Elevation Collective, which is a brand new expression.
Oh,
of-
see, you
That
had a
was in
question
my
about
book.
that.
Okay, so
All right,
I have notes right here.
One more question.
Never got to.
No, ask
We're
the
not
question.
there.
Ask the question.
So, yeah,
Ask
real
the
quick
question.
before we leave, part 2.
All right, we're not done.
So get the difference between Elevation Worship and Elevation Collective is.
So Collective, it just had its inaugural project a couple weeks ago with this titled Evidence. Collective is kind of a new way. It's just a sister arm, a brother arm of what we're doing, but it's giving us the freedom to, hey, we may want to do any pop deal in the future or
Yeah.
any
You gonna become
other
a pop
type of-
superstar? Y'all gonna become a pop band?
no,
You can
not
see that.
us, not us.
Backstreet Boys.
But it's-
Elevation
NSYNC.
Worship. All right. I'm sorry, keep going.
It it's
side.
giving
Then
us,
we could be
We
in
could be
it.
in it. Running Man. I'm sorry, keep going. Sorry.
it's basically like a platform for us to have friends in the ministry or like other artists that are friends
They need
come
friends.
in and be a part of what we're doing. And so with this collective project, this specific one, I mean, it was something that was dreamed up last summer, and just what if we got some of our friends who are in gospel music.
I was gonna say, it had
to
more of a gospel
reimagine-
tilt to it than other stuff you've done.
Yeah,
which was cool.
which is honestly, not that not that out there for what we would do on a weekend.
Yeah.
We pushed the boundaries for sure with it from what's typical for us. But Israel Houghton, he's like a cousin to our church. He's been in several times, and so we started talking with him. What if you produce this thing, and we got Travis Green and Tasha Cobbs involved, and Ty and some others, and so it's been a lot of fun all through the fall. And then we've just been chomping at the bit since
Now he's just
end of last year.
Now he's just dropping names.
Yeah.
So and so. Billy Graham did the voiceover before he passed, and so.
I wish.
No,
Yeah.
That would have been epic.
So, well, how
That's
cool.
what collective is. It's
Yeah.
I like it.
friends coming together.
So we got more. Hopefully, we'll be looking forward to in the future with the collective.
Who knows? Maybe
That's
so.
awesome.
So
That's
where does everybody go to learn more about Elevation Worship, Elevation Church?
ElevationWorship.com,
Simple,
Simple.
ElevationChurch.org.
simple.
You can find with ElevationWorship.com. You can follow along, figure out where we're gonna be, what city we'll be at, for any event. Find out our music. Go stream us for free. Find a platform to just listen to our music.
That's
for
like
free.
MikeandDooley.com.
Mike,
Go to
very
MikeandDooley.com.
simple.
to-
MikeandDooley.com for all your Mike
To
and
merchandise.
Dooley
All the
needs.
money goes to charity from our merchandise. Come on
I'm
now.
hoping I'm getting some merchandise.
You're getting some
You're
merchandise.
getting some
You're
merchandise. We'll take care of you. Hopefully, we'll see you in Greenville. I think we
Yes.
can come down to Greenville. What do you think? You want
You
to go?
got,
Oh,
you
when
got
you have-
tickets.
when you
You,
have-
your
Yeah, you
family.
got
We're in.
You're
We're in.
We're in?
Yeah.
Actually, we'll do an interview before.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
All right. Yeah.
Anything else?
Anything else you guys think you want to say? before
Because
we
Dooley
go?
and I could go on for like another 3 hours.
We're gonna do this in the car ride home.
We have like
This bad story.
so every,
This is
so every week we do our show and we meet. We have like a little meeting before and we make notes. There'll be like 3 things on the piece of paper and the show's like 2 hours long. So we don't need.
Yeah, like I had notes right here, and I literally just pulled it out of my pocket for the first time. Now I've got a bunch of text messages. So all right,
Yeah.
good.
Saying,
So-
good job. You did great.
Well,
That's
they
why I
all
encourage
buzzed
them
when
to-
y'all started singing. They
Yeah,
were very
mine was
unimpressed
too.
with us.
Mine was
Y'all
too.
started singing, it was. Had to get the AED out or something. So we're good. All right. Anything
No, this
else
is
at all?
great.
Well, man, this has been so much
Yeah,
fun.
Yes, thank you.
Mike and Dooley, Elevation Worship. Thank you
Yes.
for
Thanks for
letting us
having
just sit
us.
down
Good.
and just being fun to hang out with, man.
Yeah.
So.
Check them out. Check them out.
Check them out, elevationworship.com, elevationchurch.org. Outcry Tour's coming up in April, not March. April.
Well,
it's
no,
coming.
March is the Highlands concert.
Spa retreat.
Spa
Yes,
retreat.
March is Spa Retreat. So many comments.
I'll do it.
Not gonna make them. All right, so and we got the live album coming out in the middle of March. Or you're gonna
End
be
of the
doing
year.
it in
End
the
of
middle
the
of
year.
March.
Recording
Yes.
March 8th.
End of the year, coming into the year.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
busy people.
Yeah.
All right. Shout
That's
out.
why
if
we have to stop the show. They're big.
Yeah, they're busy. They're busy. All right, we're gonna say goodbye for the 13th time.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, wait.
Thanks.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, all right. So this has been Mike and Dooley live with Elevation Worship. Hope y'all are having a great day from our family.
Pound.
So-
Mike and Dooley.
Pound,
Mike and
pound,
Dooley.
Mike and Dooley. From our families to yours. Hope you're having a great week. Mike and Dooley people, we'll see you Friday.
Bye. Bye.